I'm living in a nightmare and I wish somebody would wake me up. Unfortunately, I can't wake up from this one because I am awake.
Why is it important for you to speak out about your son's suicide?
It's important because I don't want another parent to have to go through what we're dealing with. I don't want another person to hurt the way my son hurt. I want them to know that it doesn't make you weak to be depressed, to be sad, to think that you're not worth living anymore, because everyone's worth it. Everyone's worth living. So every life is worth saving. So that's why I don't want another person to take their life. I don't want another parent to have to do what we've been doing.
To bury a child.
To bury a child and to deal with everything now. You know, we don't want anyone else to go through that. I don't want anyone else to join this club. Because it's a club no parent wants to join. No, not at all.
Any worry then after that incident?
No, well, because I didn't know. Because he said he just needed some time alone, and I told him how. And of course, I was very emotional. And then my husband got on the phone; he was very emotional, and he said, and his friends were also trying to get him at this point, and that friend is the one that he said, "Mom, Sean called me. He's going to come up and spend the night, and we're going to talk." I'm like, okay, that's great. He came home just to show us he was okay, and we had no clue. We had absolutely no clue what was going to happen. Apparently he had planned on doing it that night, but everybody reaching out to him stopped him. He was honest with his friend, and he promised his friend he would tell us. And then he told his friend that he told us. So the friend didn't come to us, and now, that poor kid is, and we don't blame him.
So then everything
was great. He was more animated, more involved. Like I said, we sat here, and he would say, "Mom, do you want to play cards?
Okay.
Let's play." And Michael and I couldn't shuffle cards to save ourselves. So I ordered a card shuffler. It's on top of the refrigerator. Ordered a card shuffler from Amazon one night. I said, "Michael, we were using My Meme's Skip-Bo cards. I don't know if you ever played Skip-Bo. It's a card game. And My Meme's been gone for quite some time. My kids all had all their great-grandparents for a long time. So Meme's cards, the shuffler didn't like them. So even with the shuffler, we were horrible. Yeah. But it was a running joke with us. We were terrible at this. So he played cards. He sat down. We joked the whole month. And then I was going away for the weekend. And I think that's why he chose that weekend. Because I wasn't here to be a nag, I guess.
Or to watch.
Well, I didn't know to watch.
Right.
So he just,
But now that was the weekend of August 6th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so August 5th.
You and your husband, or just you?
Just me.
Yeah.
And that's the last time I saw him. And then Saturday after work, he texted his dad and he said, "I'm going out with friends." And my husband had no reason to question that. He said, "Okay." And he said, "I won't be home." Again, okay, that's a responsible adult not going out, not driving if you're going to be drinking. And then when I came home on Sunday, let's say I was home at 3. I'm not sure of the time. My husband was a little upset. He's like angry. He says, "Michael hasn't checked in, and he should have been home." And so I started reaching out to him. One friend texted me, that friend, and said that, he was like, "Hey, is Mike home?" I'm like, "No, why?" Because I was kind of leery. And he's like, "I just want to go out. We're looking to go out." And he says he's not answering his phone. And I just said to him, he disappeared on us again. So his friend said, "Okay, I'm going to call the hotel." Maybe he went there again. He called the hotel. He was checked in. He had not checked out. His friend Sean said, I asked them to go check the room. And still I didn't know that Sean knew this, knew that Michael was how he felt. And Sean called back and he said, they said he's not in his room. I said, okay, maybe he went for a ride. Michael liked to go for long rides. Maybe he's off doing something. Fine. So Sean said, well, Joey and I are going to head up there. And I said, well, we're right behind you. We're going to head up there too. It was in Manchester. We'll head up there. Just before the tolls in Manchester, I texted one of them and I said, are you there yet? And then I got a phone call from Sean saying, call 911, get the paramedics here. And we need help. And he told me, and so I dialed 911. This amazing woman answered the phone, and she was wonderful with me, and I was hysterical, and my husband's driving, and she's like, okay, and she kept me on the phone and with all of the fire and police and whatever, and they had
Yeah.
already gotten a call from the hotel.
Oh, okay.
We were there 5 minutes from that text. We got there 5 minutes after those kids got there. The police were out front and ran into the hotel with, and I said to the cop, I'm his mother. Not knowing what we were going to find, but knowing. And when we got off the elevator and we saw those kids, the both of us were gone. It was it. I can tell you everything I saw. Everything is so clear. Somebody recently, somebody I don't know, it was about this kid in Chelmsford that had been in the pool.
Yes.
And the helicopters were flying over my house. It's right around the corner. And I just said, those damn helicopters, they're right over my house. And she called me on that. And she's like, but it's the...
It's the drowning.
it's the life flight. And I said, no,
Yeah.
it's the newscopters. And I said, they're so intrusive. And she said, well, they don't know that, the family. And I said, yes, they do know that, because I can tell you, my son just died, and I can tell you every car that drove past me, I can see the faces of the people in the hotel.
Yeah.
I can still see their faces. I can tell you what every police officer that I spoke with and didn't speak with looks like, what the ME looks like. You see everything in the middle of your worst nightmare, and you don't miss anything. So once, we saw those two boys and we knew. They didn't even have to tell us, but they did. And we were hysterical, and sounds came out of me, and I keep saying it, that I don't think I've ever made before, and I hope I never make again. They had to hold us back. My husband wanted to go to my son, and logically, we knew we couldn't. But emotion takes over where logic, you
wanna
can't.
sit your
But the
child.
police were already there, and they were like, I'm sorry, you can't. And so we sat there for a long time. The officer, John, came and found us, and they said, and the ME came and found us and said, okay, you can come up and see him now. So in that respect, I think we were very fortunate that we were able to see him. I don't think everybody gets that chance. We don't tell anybody what he did, and nobody needs to know what he did. All I ever say is that he didn't hurt, and that to look at him,
Okay.
you wouldn't know.
Okay.
So we got to stay with him. The police were in the room with us. They're like, I'm sorry, we have to stay in the room. So we had like 4 policemen in there, and we had the ME in there. And then it was me and my husband and my 2 girls, one of the boyfriends, and then the 2 boys that were with us that found him. They had to find him. And we got to sit with him for a long time. And I say it, and I said it in that blog, the first one, that I think I broke every cop in that room because I started singing our song. Because that's what I do with him, I sang our song, and I just talked to him, and I told him that I wasn't angry with him, and I'm still not angry with him. That I was sorry, that I hoped he was okay, and we stayed with him for a long time, and at some point they left us alone. They stepped out, and they gave us time alone, which was a gift, to just be the 4 of us. Everybody else left but the 4 of us, the 2 girls and my husband and myself. And we just talked to him. I sang You Are My Michael, because that was our song. And then we had to come home. One of the kids drove his car home. His car was there. And one of the police officers had gone through his car. They had to.
Mm-hmm.
And they found his notes, and they left them for us. And that night,
Notes? I mean, was it
he left notes.
different people?
Yes.
Okay.
He left notes for us, and we sat here and we read them.
Did that give you any, I don't want to say peace. but
It
did
gave us a
explain-
sense. It gave us a sense of a little small sense of what was going on with him. Just very small. We even in all of that craziness, reading those notes, we got a little bit of a laugh because he asked us to take care of his dog. And he said, his dog's Hashi, and he said, I know he won't starve. And that was a dig at his mother because I spoiled the dog. What you saw, I just gave him a Frosty Paw. So we got like that little moment at least. He gave us that, and he said to us he was sorry, but he had to, that he was hurting. And he asked us to please take care of ourselves and not lose what we had. This beautiful relationship that you have, I think is what he said, about meaning me and his father, because we've been together so long. And there's a lot more in that note, and I'm not going into it. And he left other notes for his sisters and for other people, and that's how we spent that first night. And then I spent the rest of the night up listening to all his messages. I just listening to his voice, is hearing his voice. I needed to hear his voice.
Did that give you any more insight?
No. Well, the messages on the phone did, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It gave me sort of a timeline of how long he'd been dealing with it and hiding it so well.
Okay.
Because we never for a second knew this. So, to be honest, we feel like horrible parents because we missed this somehow. And we question, how can we miss this? How do you miss this?
Why do you think he didn't share?
If he thought he could handle it on his own, and he's a guy.
Yeah.
You know, men think they can't be soft. You know, as sensitive as Michael is the most sensitive person in the world and the most thoughtful, caring guy you ever met. You know, you get with kids, all of my kids are adults, so you get to a point where you say, wow, we got our kids to adulthood without any major issues. We never really dealt with a drug problem in this house, minor stuff, you know, stupid stuff, but never had any big issues like that. Minor kids, you know, teenage incidences, you know, the things they get in trouble for doing. We never had anything big happen.
Right.
And I thought, oh my gosh, we did it.
Yeah.
We got them here. You know, Michael's our youngest. And wow, we were successful.
Yeah.
Does that sound right? We thought this is great. We were wrong. You know, we were really wrong. Yep.
Why aren't you angry?
I don't know. I think because I love him so much.
Okay.
And he didn't do this to hurt anybody but himself.
Okay.
So how can I get mad at him for that? He didn't do this to hurt me. That was the last thought in his head, was that he was hurting people. I don't think it occurred to him how much he'd be hurting other people.
Really?
Because, I mean, obviously, look at the evidence that so many people cared for him is right in front of us, was right in front of him, but he was blinded by his pain. So if that wasn't enough, how can I be mad at him? I can be mad at myself because I obviously missed it, but I can't be mad at him. Maybe someday I'll be mad at him, I don't know. But I'm not there, I'm not mad at him, and right from the very second, I wasn't mad at him. I can't. And I would trade places in a heartbeat, and I've said that to him so many times in the last month. I just said, I would trade places, I would give my life for you. His father has said the same thing. I would give my life for you. And I mean, if I look back now, maybe we would have read things a little differently. Hindsight's an amazing thing, you know, but unfortunately, it is hindsight. It's not, we can't go back. We don't have Mr. Peabody and his Wayback Machine to go back and fix these things and say, oh, that's not just Michael being Michael.
Right.
Michael was always quiet, so we wouldn't have noticed if he was more quiet because you can't be more quiet.
Right.
He was always a quiet person.
He was just himself.
He was being himself. You know, I think that was I think he was trying to be okay. I can't look into his head and know that he became at peace with his decision either, because sometimes, like in reading, you read about that there's almost like a switch, like we saw with him. He's at peace with his decision. I don't know if that's necessarily what it was, though, because July 3rd is when I saw the change in him, and July 2nd is when he was going to do it that first time. So if he was at peace with his decision, he would have gone through with it.
Right.
So I think, in my mind anyway, I think he was trying really hard to be okay for himself and for us.
Is it going to the cemetery, does that make you feel better, although you cry, or
I don't think it makes
closer?
me feel better.
Yeah.
Sometimes it makes me feel worse because he's so close and I can't touch him.